In June 2014, Nintendo officially released the first batch of Amiibo, a series of figures based on the Japanese game maker's most famous franchises. Soon, all around the world, children, older players, and collectors were able to get their hands on and bring home some of the most popular characters of Nintendo's properties, from Mario and Bowser to Kirby and Samus. The dreams of many players desiring to get their hands in the ultimate Nintendo collectible could rejoice, as Amiibo were held at launch to the highest standards of production. These little figures were more than merchandise or toys. Their feeling was closer to statues or high-quality action figures, not to be carelessly played with. We talked a few times in this channel about how low value added most of the merchandising industry is, which seems to believe that a popular brand being poorly plastered all over pieces of plastic is enough to justify the premium charged by distributors. We have vehemently criticized the level of disrespect that such officially licensed merchandise shows towards the fanbase, whose love is weaponized for the sake of a quick buck. In our video on Funko figures, we indicated how the overall high quality of their vinyl figures are in part responsible for their incredible success, and that notion still stands today. In a world of discolored plastic Mario toys, poorly finished Link plushies, and printed Pikachu shirts where the image cracks after wearing it 3 times, the advent of Amiibo symbolizes a new era. An opportunity for Nintendo to provide the market with the high-end collectibles it was clamoring for without the disrespect and the flooding of buyer's remorse. And this new era came. As summer of 2014 rolled in, so did the first figurines of Nintendo, and, as it could not be any other way, they sold remarkably well, with the Japanese game maker scoring an outstanding 1.3 million units sold in just that second part of the year, beating Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U in units sold that particular year, an incredible victory indeed. Ever since, Nintendo has expanded the lineup of their Amiibo figures with relative consistency. For almost a decade, the Japanese game maker has accompanied every release of one of their first-party titles with a lineup of figurines. Breath of the Wild, Animal Crossing, Mario Odyssey, all of them have received the Amiibo treatment. But what is the point of all of this? Beyond the quick cash and the infinite merchandising opportunities, is there a grand strategy? Will the day come where Amiibo emerges as a fundamental gaming experience? Or will they remain but soulless trophies condemned to dust and darkness in forgotten shelves and overpriced eBay ads? Welcome to Rebel Economics, where we talk about all things business and economics. Today, we will explore the odd market strategy of Nintendo's Amiibo figures, their impact in the merchandising world, and its tremendous wasted potential. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're interested in Nintendo as a business, we have tons of content for you. From how Nintendo marries gameplay and hardware in the Switch, to how Pokémon became and keeps its position as the most profitable media franchise in the world. So please, consider subscribing if any of this sounds interesting. And now, back to the video. In October of 2011, a then unknown game hit the shelves of major retailers without much fanfare, but with a big promise, bringing collectible figures to life. Skylanders was not just a game, you see. It was a whole collection of figures that could be brought into the game by placing them in a special piece of hardware that would render the little monsters into the screen. It was an absolute success, and practically as soon as it launched, children were already lining up to get their hands on these little figurines, as parents looked terrified as they felt their wallets getting lighter. As of today, Skylanders records the earnings of the franchise in the billions of dollars, and the number of sold figures in the hundreds of thousands. The rest of the video game, as well as the traditional toys market, was baffled. How had this unknown franchise, with only a couple of recognizable characters, been able to come up with a business model that the titans of the industry had not been able to? Skylanders' success sent waves across the industry. It was official. The video game and toy markets could not only be successfully married, but were very profitable for those able to grab a foothold in the young and expanding niche. Nintendo jumped at the chance, and a couple of years later, the first prototype of Amiibos were already finished and ready to be mass-produced. Nintendo felt quite comfortable about the tremendous bet that they were putting into the toys-to-life market. Their confidence came from the certainty that if customers had flocked to the market of essentially nondescript monster figures, What would they not do for Mario and Bowser, for Link and for Charizard? So, they had the toys half of the market control, but what about the life part of the new craze? How was the Japanese game maker going to imbue these pieces of plastic with life in his systems of games? Well, the answer was complicated. It is my firm opinion that Nintendo has never fully exploited the potential of Amiibo in their ecosystem of games and hardware. When the first batch of Amiibo came out, they did so to accompany the Super Smash Wii U video game. The Wii U controller would allow players to scan the Amiibo that they had bought and generate an AI rival in the fighting game. This was meant to be Nintendo's response to the wonders of Skylanders, whose scanning ability allowed players to build up a team of monsters and fight the antagonist of the game, while Nintendo's Amiibo simply gave you a CPU to fight against? I don't know. Some people found it interesting, but considering that the best game without Amiibo already allows you to tune up or down the difficulty level of the CPU rivals, this feature had very little impact on me. I thought it was uninspired, and I still think so today. The reality that Nintendo could not hide was this: the game with Amiibo and the game without Amiibo were essentially the same. And this is an issue that they have carried with them in every Amiibo release and game release that promised certain compatibility within the figures. Too little, too disappointing. In some games, you can get cosmetic items like a hat or extra health or other rather insignificant improvements. These Amiibo were, and have sadly remained, purely merchandise with some minuscule exceptions. The toys without the life. Additionally, as the catastrophic sales of the Wii U gave way to the Switch era, the sheer number of Amiibo lines that were being produced turned the whole system into a logistical nightmare. Not only specific Amiibo would have effect with some games, while others will not. Added to that, now each character had no longer one singular Amiibo, but basically one for every game released, making the older versions more and more irrelevant as each new game came and went. The promise of a Skylanders-like universe of Nintendo characters faded from the minds of players, as their shelves kept getting fuller with empty husks resembling Mario and Luigi. All while the online retail world became infested with scalpers and resellers who would quickly purchase a large amount of a specific figure, and thanks to Nintendo's poor industrial output management, were able to inflate prices to the point where you can find an Splatoon Amiibo for almost $300 on eBay. What hurts the most, as it is always the case, is not the disappointing nature of our present situation, but the bitter thought of what could have been. The pieces were there for a much larger universe of Nintendo characters interacting in multitude styles of gaming. We could have received a League of Legends-like online game where instead of purchasing skins, the Amiibo would have been used to bring those characters to life. We could have also received, had the corporate interest and ambition been bigger on Nintendo's side, a much better version of the Skylanders concept. An ever-updating free-to-play online world similar to World of Warcraft, where you could start with a basic character like a Toad from the Super Mario series or Rattata from Pokémon, but could become the classic popular characters by using the Amiibo. An idea like this would have created a sprawling ecosystem of players that, if implemented correctly, would always come back to the game. New lines of Amiibo could have also still been created, granting Nintendo the easy cash they so clearly crave, by making sure that every Amiibo it was released granted direct benefits in the game, not a hat or a sword, but an actual playable character. This is the world we have been denied by Nintendo's lack of ambition, by their interest to not pursue what was meaningful, but what was expedient in the moment. You know, all of this might be irrelevant. Some of you might be thinking, even after hearing all of my proposal, that the point is just money, that is always the point. And to be honest, I agree in part with you. But then I remember something that sends a shiver down my spine when I think of the disservice that Nintendo has done to Amiibo, and its characters and its customers. In the Subspace Emissary, the story mode for Nintendo Super Smash Bros. Brawl, an ensemble of Nintendo's characters struggle to defeat the Horde of Darkness that build up the army of Taboo, a brutal ruler of a dark dimension. His plan is not to rule the world or destroy the light, or any other wacky villain of the week strategy. His plan is to turn all of the characters into immovable trophies. Heroes, villains, everyone is to be hollowed out and turned to stone, a pristine representation of vitality, but discolored and without a pulse. And Taboo succeeds, at least for a while, and we are subjected to this gut-wrenching scene. This is why I don't think this topic is irrelevant. That Nintendo's failure to bring life to its Amiibo figures has robbed the world of a truly fantastic experience, and that when the day comes when Nintendo closes the factories that produce these figures and the sun finally sets on the Toys to Life brief foothold in the video game industry, the silence will be deafening. All those Amiibo will be trophies to reward the debacle, the leftovers of corporate dispassion for their IPs beyond a bottom line, and so they will remain, just as Taboo desired. Broken yet immaculate, all striking heroic poses, but removed from feeling, no longer alive, just merchandise. Thank you for watching Rebel Economics. This was a really exciting video to script and research. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, so please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. We put a lot of work in these videos, and it always feels fantastic when they're well received. And if you're still looking for some more interesting analysis on the world of merchandising, why not check out our video on Pokémon's real possibility to remain an infinite franchise. Thank you once again for choosing our channel, and I will see you in the next video.